Hello and welcome to all my fellow fans out there. You know the drill by now. If you haven't already, now is the time to pause this video and read through the channel's disclaimer in full before viewing any of my work. Thank you kindly. Hello and welcome to How To For You by me, Jet Hipwell, creating realistic, cool looking stuff and on a tight budget. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of How To For You, where I will be taking you through the 10 easy steps of how I made this epic Halloween mask on a really low budget. In fact, half the things I needed to make this mask were already just laying around in my house, tucked away in drawers with stuff that hasn't even been used or things that haven't been seen the light of day in years. So I thought to myself, why not use them up in a really cool and practical way? So what did I come up with? A Halloween hag mask. Right guys, this is a rundown of things that you're probably going to need when creating a mask of this kind. Now then, first of all, you need a cheap, tacky, flat kids Halloween mask. It doesn't have to be brilliant, it just needs to be like thin, cheap, crap plastic. Like the one shown in the picture that I bought for £1.99 from a pound shop. And it's really thin, it's tacky, and it's a horrible thing, and it's very flat. I bought that last year, so this year for me it didn't cost me anything, it was just hanging around in a cupboard. A usable lighter. Now, I always say caution and danger with lighters. Obviously, they are dangerous. I don't want you burning your fingers off or melting stuff to the carpet. Some people choose to skip out the lighter stage of the mask making, and it'll be explained why in the next stage of the video. 1 times black and 1 times red permanent marker pen. These two are pretty essential. 1 pair of sharp scissors. I say sharp, usually it is sharp, but for this they just need to cut out 2 egg size sort of ovals. That's about it, so they don't need to be that sharp, but again, caution, no running, no stabbing yourself. 1 bottle of kids PVA glue. Again, caution with this stuff, it's tacky, it gets on the carpet, blah blah blah, cover your tables, you're not daft. Now then, tube of contact adhesive. Again, cheap as chips, most people have got some knocking about in a cupboard or a drawer somewhere, so for this project it's perfect. Now then, the next one is nail varnish. On the list it's got 1 black, 1 red, 1 purple, 1 blue. This can be cloggy, cheap crap that doesn't even go on your nails very well anymore. The stuff you've got in the back of a drawer that you never use, ladies. Black and red are essential, preferably dark red. Again, dark purple or dark blue, but the purple and blue are not 100% needed, just for added effects. A piece of sharp scrap plain white paper. Yeah, straight scrap plain paper, whatever sort of paper you want to use. Actually, it could be a ripped up piece, it doesn't really matter. As long as you can cut out of it 2 egg size ovals, because you'll be needing those at a later date. And that is the ovals, not the page with the holes cut in them. That can go in the bin or recycling. Tube of super glue. Again, you only need a tiny bit of this, so a dreg or a drop in the bottom of a tube discarded in a drawer will do. It says a box of tissues or similar. Now you need literally a few sheets of toilet roll or a couple of tissues out of a box. That is it. And powder puff makeup pads. These are optional. Most ladies have got them knocking about in a drawer somewhere. I use them on the inside of the mask for padding at one of the very end stages. And again, it's optional whether you want to use them or not, but it does help with a 3D stand-up effect if you need it at the end. Right guys, let's get to it. Step 1, manipulation. Now, this is the step I always say, danger and be careful with it. It's using both a lighter and a set of scissors. Some people choose not to do this line because they don't want to hurt themselves or to, like, you know, damage anything, that sort of thing. If you're careful, it's a really easy step. Now then, manipulate it, burn it, melt it, bubble it, reshape it, make it come to life. What I mean by that is basically by holding a lighter just above the plastic surface, it heats up the plastic and therefore makes it malleable, makes it soft. Pressing with the scissors, the metal end of the scissors together closed, will then make indents or extra deep crevices and lines. Now remember, if somebody's seeing a mask up close, like on film or TV, that's fine. That you can have little extracts and little examples of this. But if you're wearing it to, say, a party or to do something where you will be seeing people at a distance, the exaggeration of the mask works much, much better. So, using all of these options, you can really make a cheap, thin, flat mask really have more expression. However, it can also ruin a project if you get it wrong. So, go slow and steady, holding the flame a few millimeters away from the mask's surface, not touching it. On the top side only. If you do it from the underneath or the inside of the mask, it's just likely to make holes or melt it entirely. It can also look pretty gruesome, and it works well with melted or burnt flesh looks and skin. So yeah, really good idea to do. Again, using the same scissors, you can also press in and make good scales, things like that, for other creatures or monsters. Really useful step if you're willing to take the risk and give it a go. Best thing I always say to people, if you want to do this step, do it outside with no wind. If it's windy, your flame's going to blow all over the place and it's not going to work. You're going to get it all over. And 2, melting or burning plastic absolutely stinks. So do it outside. And again, away from children, pets, etc. Be sensible if you're going to do this step. But it really does make a big difference if you're going to do it. Step 2, filling in the eyes. Now then, the eyes are the most prominent thing of somebody's face. They're the thing that most people look at and see first. Your eyes show everything: emotion, truth, lies, how you truly feel. So with a horror mask like this, you don't want to see that feeling. So with this mask, to start off with, I want to share caution because using a lot of the different materials needed here. Using the scissors, carefully cut out of your paper 2 times large egg-sized shaped pieces of paper. Now they want to be big enough that they will cover and overlap the actual size of the eye holes. Now then, you want to do this carefully, and they want to be around the same size. Now then, using the super glue, carefully glue them into the inside of the mask, where your face goes basically, to completely cover the eye holes of the mask. So you should not be able to see through this at all now, it should just be white paper. Again, super glue dries extremely quickly, don't get it on your fingers or stick things to tables. If you need to cover your table first, do this now. Next is using the black nail varnish, completely paint the inner eye sockets in a thick layer of varnish, flicking out towards the sides as you go. Using this same varnish, colour in any other bits that you would like to be bold, black or darkly shadowed and accentuated. Basically, if you look at the picture, I've done the eye sockets, the nose, a few dents and dimples on the sides of the face. I've done the bridge line across the nose, the 2 lines down the front of the skull, and a few bits on the top edges of the eyes. This helps give you extra shadow when you're working with things and making them have depth. Finally, using the black permanent marker pen, emphasize and accentuate the features. Leave this to dry fully, then using the tip of the scissor blade, pierce small holes in the center of each eye, enough that you can just see through them. Now then, with this stage, using the black marker pen, again, I've drawn little cracks, lines on the top of the skull, straight lines that look like sort of claw marks on the sides of the skull and the indents, and I've accentuated the lines on the front of the beak type shape of the mask there. Leave this all to dry thoroughly before moving to the next step. Step 3. Building colour depth. Slap it on. Basically, this step is easy. Using the red permanent marker, make a fuzzy, uneven line around all of your black areas. Then thickly retrace all of your original black lines. Okay, so this means basically going and scribbling around the edges of all the black, just like it shows you on the picture, and overlapping all the black lines. Doing this will give you sort of a 3D double line effect. Next, using the darker blue nail varnish and purple nail varnish, if you're doing this stage, basically splodge that on. Use the red varnish first, the darker one, and do it around the bottom section of the eyes, and the blue or the purple around the top. Again, this gives sort of like a bruising effect. It darkens and lightens certain areas and certain colours that then go on top of it. It's all about building the depth of the colour and how it's seen. If you do this with the eye sockets, it really starts to build what you're doing. Again, try not to be too worried about if you get the colour on the black that's within the eye sockets. It really doesn't matter if you're messy. They will be covered up at a later stage. Step 4. Building layered depth. Again, slap it on. Only once step 3 has dried thoroughly. Using the dark red nail varnish, splodge and flick the varnish over and around any of the black sections. This includes the eye sockets, the dips of the nose, the little dimples in the skin marks, anywhere you want to look open or wounded. In that sense, I've chose to use the very centre of the face to be the most prominent and the most striking of the mask, but you can do it anywhere you like. The same rule applies. Flick it outwards towards the outer edge so that it's not like a clean circle or a clean line. Then, using the black nail varnish, do the exact same thing without flicking out at the edges. So this time, back into the centre section of the eye sockets, nose, and any other deep intended or black area that you want to look deeper. Again, make sure each colour or each layer is dry before piling one on top. Otherwise, you're going to mix them up and make them look really, really mucky. Now, sometimes this can look good when it's a blood effect. So who am I to say what's best? Play around with it and see what you think. Step 5. Building up layer depth. Again, slap it on. Only once step 4 has dried thoroughly. Using a brighter red nail varnish if you have one than previously used, splodge and flick the varnish over and around any of the black sections again, but do this lightly this time so that not all of the darker red is covered over and some can still be seen coming through in places. Make it patchy. Wait for it to thoroughly dry once again. Then using the black nail varnish, go back in and do the exact same thing without flicking out at the edges this time. Just go back into the centre section of the eye sockets, nose, and any other deep intended or black areas. This is all meant to look messy at the building stage. Do not worry. Look at my picture. Looks a mess. The end result is what counts. Step 6. Building up layer depth. Gently pat it on this time. Now, this is quite a long step, and only once step 5 has dried thoroughly can you start doing this. Using a glass bowl, and only a glass bowl, pour in the equivalent of 2 tablespoons, that's the bigger one out of the spoons in your drawer, of PVA glue into the glass bowl. Then add 1 teaspoon, that's the littler one that you make your tea with, of ordinary room temperature tap water to the glue. Then add 1 drop or blob of dark red nail varnish to the concoction. When the concoction is mixed, if it doesn't look dark enough, you can add other drops of nail varnish, but don't add any more than 3. Find something suitable to mix it with. I tend to use the prongs of a fork and whip it really quickly until you get a consistent, loose, lighter red liquid. If it's too light, like I said, add a bit more red, but don't add any more than 3 drops. Next, take a single tissue and screw it up really good. Lightly dip it onto the surface of your mixed liquid and dab it onto the mask gently, very, very lightly, and then leave it to dry. The reason for this is because you've mixed water in with the PVA glue, which is already a water-based glue, and the mask is plastic, so glue is not going to adhere to the plastic very well, so adding a bit of extra water really thins it out. That helps dilute also the nail varnish in the mixture. So as you can see by my picture, there is at the bottom side of the beak sort of face area and the lines at the top of the skull, around the edges and around the centre of the eyes. I've dabbed this on so it doesn't adhere properly. It makes it speckly, almost spattered like, and it's brilliant for the blood effect that we're doing here. Sort of makes it look smudgy and messy and more aggravated, much more dramatic. Step 7. Building up 3D layers. Caution, be careful with this step, you're using contact adhesive. It's evil, sticky stuff, it gets everywhere and you can't get it off very easily. So, drips, runs, pools and lines are all key to this step. Only one, step 6, has dried thoroughly, and this may take overnight to do so. Bear in mind, things like glues and varnishes adhere and harden over time. Next, we play with the contact adhesive. This is a more gloopy and thicker sort of liquid than the PVA or the super glue. It is also clear and not white. Follow your lines, your indents and other random areas with this gloopy liquid. Make it run and drip. Fill the bottom of the eye sockets, then squeeze the glue tube gently until it runs down like clear dripping blood would down your face. You may want to cover your surfaces first. I have mentioned this before. Glue is not good on tables and chairs, etc. Leave it to dry for at least 6 hours minimum until it's shiny and hard, or at least tacky, at least sealed on the surface. But be careful how hard you press on it because the inside will still be liquid. And then using a red permanent marker once it's dried, colour over the top of the clear dry glue areas. Now, as you can see with the picture, this makes super shiny blood runs. It's brilliant. It gives you an actual sheen, an actual look of liquid. It's fantastic. Step 8. Building up 3D layers. And again, we are slapping it on. Once everything is fully dried, take 1 sheet of tissue or toilet roll or kitchen roll, whatever you're using, and rip it into tiny little pieces. And screw it up into balls and bits and shred it. And roll it up and do all sorts of weird bits with it to make it tatty. Next, add a thin layer of contact adhesive into the eye sockets or anywhere else on the mask that you would like to make look like traumatized flesh or very jagged, harsh wounds, basically. As you can see, I've started here in the picture on the right eye, just adding little tiny balls of tissue screwed up, and you'll see in my final pictures why and what that looks like in the next section. Screwing up these little pieces of tissue really tightly, pressing them into the areas that you've just put the glue on, basically. And you can always build upwards, so if it still looks flat, add a little bit more glue, a little bit more paper, a little bit more glue, a little bit more paper. Again, screwing it up gives it height and 3D effect. A bit more tissue, a bit more height. Simple. Tip for you is long stringy bits of tissue look epic like torn skin when layered up, and rolls as well. If you roll the tissue up like a little tiny thin straggly worm, then it looks awesome. Great way also of making maggots and things like that, but we'll go into that in another video. Step 9. Building up 3D layers. Dab, dab, dab it on. Once everything is fully dried, take the light red nail varnish and start to gently dab your colour onto the raised bits of tissue. Anything raised that you've done. Literally, then repeat and do the exact same thing with the darker red nail varnish. So again, just dotting and dabbing both, so it's a mixture of both colours on top of the raised surfaces. Doing this builds your colour depth and makes the prominent pieces not look block and cartoon like in colour, but more realistic in a lifelike kind of way. And make sure you've got no white tissue showing, unless you specifically need white in something, and then fair enough. Step 10. Touch-ups and sealing. Nearly there now. This is the time where you do what you think is best. Taking the colours you have used previously and the materials used throughout the project can all be added now and added on. Built on or touched up, etc. Like in the picture you can see here, I've added more darker red to the inside of the eyes and some more black around the centre to disguise where the holes are for me to see through. Remember, it's easier to add more bits and layers than it is to take them away. Sometimes less can be more, and another thing to remember is that when moving and mixing glue with other materials, quite often the colour result can look lighter than expected when dried. So once everything is fully dried and you are happy with the results, you are finished with the correction part. Now comes aftercare. If you're making this mask for a one-time use and throwing it away, then this last bit doesn't really matter. However, I like to spray my masks lightly with a matte varnish, and then you're done. The reason I do this is purely because it helps solidify all the glue and the paints and whatever materials you've used and stops them eroding or flaking, chipping and breaking off. It gives you a nice sealed overall layer. Again, matte varnish will give it a matte finish. A more vinyl or a silk or a gloss varnish gives it a much more high shine. So you have to work out which varnish is best for you. If you want a mixture of both, I suggest again the nail varnish routine. Clear nail varnish or nail hardener is perfect for going over small areas and making them stand out and shine. Just like blood drips, teardrops, slime, anything like that, it's all done. Now then, once you are done, this is it. You are there. Let it dry. And I mean like 24 hours dry. And then look at it again and see if it needs the repeat of the touch-up and sealing part. Okay, so now you're done. Here's an optional padding for the inside option. You're all done and your mask is finished. If it's flat to your face and you want it to stand proud or at a certain angle and to stay looking at that angle, or the mask just hurts and rubs on your skin, then you can add padding to resolve both these things. I myself use super glue to firmly stick makeup powder pads to the inside of the mask, usually on the forehead area, cheeks, chin, etc. If you want your mask to permanently look in a certain direction, simply add more padding to one side. That's usually the opposite side. So obviously if you want it to look left, you put more padding in the right, etc. Thick padding on the bridge of the nose will make the flat mask, like mine, stand proud of the face, giving it a much more 3D and lifelike appearance rather than just being a flat mask. Have a go for yourself using the techniques that I have shown in this video, and please feel free to comment with your mask photos or ask any questions that you may have in the comments section. Thank you all. There you have it, ladies and gents. This is my finished final result, and this is what the mask looked like when worn for my first interview of the year. So, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed listening to or watching this video, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel for all future videos and projects. Thank you kindly.